Do people rent things anymore? Let's play podcast. So, back in my youth, we used to rent things if we needed them temporarily. I remember renting a chainsaw one time. The guy, as he handed it to me for a couple hours, piously told me, "Now don't cut railroad ties with this." This was way back in the 80s, though. Of course, there are some things we don't buy, but the tendency seems to be toward that end now. I've got stuff around my farm here that I bought and I used once, and now it's just sitting around. So, most famously, recently, my planetarium is benefiting. We bought what we thought would be the solution to a specific job we had, and that was caulking and glazing and repainting our very tall Victorian windows on the outside of our old 1890s farmhouse here on the farm. And we foolishly thought, oh, we'll buy our own scaffolding at Lowe's. It'll be great. Well, we bought it and then sat on it and, put off that job. We finally got around to doing it conveniently after I couldn't climb ladders anymore. So my wife had to do it. But when we got the scaffolding out to the window site, it was woefully too short. It was too wobbly. It was on wheels. There were mole holes. We were trying to set it up in the yard. It just didn't work. We had to have we had to have a 10-foot step ladder with a spotter while this job got done. Now, we were able to salvage some use out of this scaffolding. And it looks great. We put all our tools, all our paint cans, paint brushes, chisels, paper towels, caulk gun, glaze gun, all that was on there. And then I could move it. It was like a movable workbench. So I got some use out of it. But then we were done. So guess what? It's in the tin can now. It's a planetarium stand. So the same thing, I haven't been as lucky with the power washer that we paid. I don't want to know how much we paid for that. But at the time, our Victorian front porch was covered in green scum. We had to do it. I wasn't going to pay anybody. I still had that do-it-yourself ethos. So we bought it. It worked. It got that scum off. And now it's sitting in the tool shed unused. And I even, when my father-in-law passed, I even brought his old power washer, which he had done the same thing. He'd used it once or twice. Now I've got two of them, although I don't think his works so good. But what to do? We used to rent things. Now, you can't go out and buy a truck or a huge trailer. We did end up buying a trailer that I mainly don't use. I've hauled my mower down to the repair shop a couple times. It mostly sits around. But when we had to move ourselves to this farm, we rented a U-Haul, didn't we? When we had to move my son in and out of his various colleges, we had U-Hauls, didn't we? Most famously, moving him from Louisville, where he spent a year between undergrad and grad school, they didn't have any normal-sized trucks. We had to rent an enormous yellow truck and move him down to Ole Miss in Oxford, Mississippi. I was trimming the trees in Oxford as I drove that thing down those tree-lined streets. That thing was way, way, way too big, but it got the job done. So we used to rent rototillers because you only used it once a season. We used to rent one for a couple hours and then take it back. Finally, we bought a rototiller. And guess what? Used it once or twice and then never again. It's still sitting out back, rusting now, along with the first riding mower, which they threw it in. I remember it was a package deal. If you bought a mower at John Deere, they gave you this tiller and a chainsaw. The mower lasted 30 years. The other two not so long. So one time things that you bought. Of course, the house is full of them. You know, your salad shooters. Some of them were gifts. Some of them seem like a good idea. We have an air fryer. Some of them don't even get used once, like the air fryer. It's still sitting there, waiting. It's out. We unboxed it, of course. You know, you can't take it back. So, I guess the bottom line is, it's great if you can recycle, as I just did the scaffolding. Recycle something into a new, more fun use. But I guess, though, that this is why they invented yard sales, isn't it? But then you're talking cents on the dollar. Where's the sense in that? Thanks for listening.